Welcome to Totes Professional Gaming. Today we're doing something similar to what we did with the Medium, except it's for Dying Light 2. Still a review, it's still on PS5 OG, as it's an older video and script, long story, but I didn't want to waste the hard work I put into this, so I thought I'd post it anyway on this new channel. Again, still learning and would appreciate the feedback that you have. Thank you and enjoy. Now, having played and enjoyed the first one last year, I decided to give the second one a go, and I was pretty impressed, generally, with the improvements. The advantage of playing this game a while after release is that most of the bugs have been patched. Yay! So, Dying Light 2, the open world parkouring and undead killing adventure. First, let's talk about the world. The game world appears to be bigger at first, but fairly limited in variety. There are underground sections, there are some buildings or rooms you can go into, or apartments. But, while you're running around the open world, it all looks a bit, even the different sections of the map, they don't look all that different. But nonetheless, there's enough there for you to kind of climb over and jump off of. At nighttime, the zombies are everywhere. They're swarming the streets, they actively hunt you down in something called a chase mode. Once a particular type of zombie spots you and calls for backup. Now, this makes you have to stick to the rooftops to stay out of sight, but of course, some missions can only be done at night, and some resources are much more abundant at night, creating a good challenge versus reward calculation. There are save points with UV lights similar to the first game, but you can also carry UV lights on you for a temporary respite so that you can get away. Oh, and I nearly forgot to mention, your character is infected, so when playing at night, you have a timer, like a countdown to zombification. Zombification? Zombie-ation? I don't know. But what that means is if you stay in the dark too long, you might succumb to whatever virus it is that's infected everyone, and you might turn. So you can only be in the dark for a set amount of time before you have to run back to your safe zone so you can be under UV light and be restored to your human self. I guess because UV light keeps the virus at bay. I don't know. This mechanic puts pressure on you, and I find it a bit overwhelming, to be honest. But I don't really play at night time unless I absolutely have to. So there you go. During the day, there are a lot less zombies around, as most of them hide inside buildings. It's easy to run around, but that doesn't make the game easy in itself by any stretch of the imagination. There are still challenges during the day, but thankfully most of the story missions do happen during daytime, and the extra visibility makes parkouring and even combat a lot easier. Now, the underground sections I quite like in this game because they're a bit more challenging due to the lack of open space for movement. It forces you to adapt and play in stealth mode because you can't really just run away and hide. All that being said, the environment design of the world lends itself really well to the parkouring mechanic. In this sequel, it feels even more fluid this time around to parkour around a city, and there's more variety in terms of what you can climb, what you can jump on or jump off of. The highlight of the game is clearly the parkour mechanic. That's the selling point. You climb skyscrapers, water towers, windmills, churches, lampposts, cars, even enemies sometimes, and eventually you unlock a grappling hook that you can swing around like Batman. You even unlock this paraglider, I guess, and that's a pretty cool feature. It's a little bit clunky, but I quite like it. So as you keep playing the game, you'll earn XP and level up your character, earning points that you can spend on combat or parkour skills. So if you prefer a full-on combat build, you can focus on unlocking those abilities and unlock skills like using the momentum of enemies to throw them into spikes, or conversely, if you prefer acrobatic combat, it's best that you spend your points in the parkour tree, where you can unlock wall running, that sort of thing. And I tell you what, it's pretty awesome to wall run and then kick a zombie in the face, then grapple away in less than 5 seconds. It makes you feel really badass. And by the way, once you figure out how to block attacks and parry, the combat becomes so much easier. You can take on loads more enemies with ease once you figure that out. The weapons and crafting system are an integral part of the adventure. You can find or buy randomly generated weapons. Some of them have mod slots, and you can add modifiers like fire, electricity, poison damage, etc. that give you an edge in combat. You can find various sporting and cooking equipment to fight zombies with, and you can kick them off rooftops or light a gas tank and throw it at groups, as well as use molotovs, grenades, mines, C4, and a bunch of other things. You really have access to an armory of destruction there. The random loot has enough variety to have you check and change your gear every once in a while, but it isn't particularly overwhelming. So I didn't find myself constantly checking and comparing what I have, like I had to do in games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, for example. And there is enough variety in the enemy types as well, in the zombies especially. You know, slow ones, fast ones, big ones, small ones with projectile attacks, ones who jump and leap at you. So all the encounters, especially ones in the open world where there's a few different types of zombies near you, those feel quite, dynamic and fun to figure out. There's one enemy type called virals. I found that one challenging at first because I couldn't really, dodge in time. But after a few encounters, I sort of mastered it. Sort of. I mean, not really. So I just avoided them. As for the story, which is normally my favorite part of games, it starts out with a cool tutorial where you learn basic combat and a little bit of stealth, scavenging, and crafting. It takes an hour or so to meet the initial main characters, but your motivation kind of sucks from the beginning in how basic it is. The dude that you play is looking for his sister, who he may have lost when they were kids in a GRE facility. So maybe they experimented on her, but he also kind of has memory loss, so he doesn't really remember where she was or why he's looking for her. It just felt kind of boring to me as motivation because it's been done a million times before and done much better. The characters you meet, though, are really quite interesting. Hakan, who becomes your bestie, is a charismatic, fun dude to hang out with. The people of the bazaar have distinct personalities, and even the PK, the peacekeepers, which is kind of like a paramilitary group, and they're definitely a trope of the zombie genre. They have their own sense of purpose and wanting to bring order to the world. So all of those different factions, you can actually identify with them, and you can decide which ones you want to help, which leads to the RPG elements of the game. It's hardly a choose your adventure game, but you do get to make some decisions which affect the outcome of side quests, and also a few choices that affect the main story and which ending you get. And yes, there are multiple endings. No, I am not going to try and do all of them. That's what YouTube is for. Oh, and your main character is really, really boring. It like so generic it hurts to play as him. Aiden, or whatever his name is, he interacts with everyone in a generic way, doesn't really change or grow that much, apart from, getting infected. He just feels like a shell. There are lots of morally ambiguous scenarios in the game, but Aiden doesn't really seem to react to them as a normal person would. He just doesn't really react much at all, to be honest. My biggest gripe with the game, however, is the PS4 to PS5 upgrade. The PS5 version looks fantastic, buttery smooth frame rate, dream parkour, but for some reason the developer Techland decided not to implement a save transfer option, which means that those gamers who have recently acquired PS5s and used to play on PS4, they'll have to restart the campaign and lose dozens, if not hundreds of hours of gameplay. I mean, that's a really bad decision. I don't like it, and it makes me sad. So if you enjoyed the first game, this is more of the same with noticeable improvements in parkour and enemy variety. The story is aggressively average, but it does lend itself to pick up and play style gaming for quick sessions, which, if you're anything like me, is really useful, as I can go and do a quick story mission in between the dozen other things I need to do in my life and not worry about having to sit for a full hour or two with the game. So I recommend it for fans of Mirror's Edge too, as it did remind me of that game a fair bit in terms of parkour combat, except Mirror's Edge didn't have zombies. Maybe if Ubisoft had put zombies in it, it would have sold a lot better. Who am I kidding? It's Ubisoft we're talking about. So here we go, Dying Light 2. Please let me know in the comments what you thought of it, what you liked, what you didn't like, and if you agree or disagree with any of my own thoughts here. Thank you and have a great day.